everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
How everyone doing today? It's beautiful weather in Hawaii, I can see from Matt's side. Welcome everyone to the virtual coffee tasting that's co-hosted by A2C Academy and Be the Change Foundation and Greenwell Farms. And here's our agenda for today's event. So we will have two sessions. The first session will be about an hour and the second session will be another hour. So first session Matt will take us on a live walking tour of Greenwell Farms, which is located on the big island of Hawaii. And after that, we will have a brief history of coffee. And Matt will also tell us about what makes Kona coffee different. And after that, we can have a Q&A with Matt. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. And in the end of the first session, we will have the exciting prize drawing. We will have 7 lucky people to win $100 gift certificate for A2C classes and boot camps. For the second session, we will have a brief introduction into the brewing system. And after that, Chai will talk about the basics of pour over technique, and we will make coffee together. After that, we will share our final thoughts and the questions with the Q grader, Chai Neil. And in the end of the event, we will have another exciting prize draw. We'll have 3 lucky participants who will win $200 of gift certificates for A2C classes and boot camps. Let's welcome Elizabeth from A2C Academy to introduce A2C Academy to us. Dr. Elizabeth Xu is a co-founder of A2C Academy and Be the Change Foundation, which focuses on helping working professionals and younger generations to live to their fullest potential. Dr. Xu is a C-level executive, a board member of public companies, an author, a coach, and a professor. Dr. Xu received her BS and MS from Beijing University. She got a PhD in computer science from the University of Nevada. She has taught leadership and career development courses at Stanford for 6 years and co-authored the popular book, Myth of Promotion, 10 Steps to a Successful Career. For her outstanding contribution to the high-tech industry and community, she has received many prestigious awards, including Silicon Valley Women of the Year, WT Hall of Fame Award, Global Leadership Award, and Coach and Mentor of the Year, Top 50 Diversity Leaders in 2020. Let's welcome Dr. Elizabeth Xu.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you, Matt. Today we have Matt in the Matt Square, and free time today. So yeah, hi everyone. I'm Elizabeth Xu, and yes, I co-founded the both foundation as well as the academy. And our goal is to help our working professionals and younger generations as well, especially like middle school, high school kids, to really discover their potential. And also give them the tool, give them the skill, give them the opportunity to do things together, to practice, and to acquire knowledge, like a culture knowledge like we have today. And together we can live to our fullest potential, and more importantly, to live a meaningful, interesting, and elegant life. So coffee is such an important thing for our daily life. Not only it's tastes great and smells great, but also give you the energy, give you energy boost. So every time in the morning, I look at coffee, I just feel the same way. But a little bit about our academy. So what we do specifically, right? For the working professionals, Matt, click please. Yeah, I was trying to. So for the working professionals, we offer 2 things. One is called A player, meaning you're a great player. So we're going to offer the boot camps for them to advance their career to the C-suite. And what does that mean? We're going to help them to think like an executive, to look like one, act like one, like drinking coffee and making great friends. Coffee is a great culture of it. and connect like executive. And together, we change the game from A player to the C-suite, right? If you want to know exactly what happened and what exactly the difference between the A to C, we'll tell you at other time. Another thing is, click please, next please. The next one is effective communication, such as how to introduce yourself, how to run a meeting, how to inject yourself into the meeting, how to write a performance review, and then how to request for a promotion, right? And how to write a resume and how to conduct interview, right? Those are the really questions and the answers that my mentor of the 30 years and myself, we're going to also include, invite some outstanding teachers from Stanford and other teaching industry, and to really bring the best. So our goal is to bring the best. Next, please. The next one is about a life vision. So I felt like a lot of parents are fighting with their kids. So if their kids already have the life vision, right? Hi kids, right? To have a life vision, and then you don't have to fight with them, right? And they will become the engine to propel their life forward and all by themselves, right? And next, please. And then the one other thing is, we have a lot of parents fighting with their kids. Why? Because their kids so much addicted to the game playing. They just don't forget about the time. And one kid actually died because he's played game nonstop for many hours. So we will train the kids, give them the tools to perform the art, to bring their thinking, their imagination of the game characters to life, as well as to program it, make it a real game. So our topic is about how to give your kids the capability to turn their gaming addiction into gaming creation. So that's another class for the K and for the middle school and high school kids. Another one, please. And then this is the innovation. The previous class was is going to be taught by the Stanford graduate, CS graduate, as well as the Art Center graduate. He's really the expert in doing automation. And then the next one is innovation and creativity. It's taught by MIT, by Stanford and the Columbia University professors. Teach us what are the theories and what are the best practices for us to bring a little idea and to do the incremental innovation and then have a business. Next, please. So in summary, we also bring some fun activities. We also do online exercise. Every day we do online exercise together, 60 minutes. So in the future, we have a more different channel. Now we have 2, and we have the guys and also the mix of guys and ladies. And we also do a lot of question and answers. So that is A2C Academy. We not only teach kids, we not only motivate them, we also doing fun activities together. This is one of the fun activities. And then all of us can learn tremendous amount of knowledge from Matt and then the team. And we always wanted to go back to Hawaii. Now we can do it visually, and I really appreciate that. Thank you, Matt. And Matt. That's all.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for the amazing introduction. Next, we will have a very brief talk from our co-organizer, Be the Change Foundation. So Ms. Ray Zhang will give us a talk. Dr. Ray Zhang is a VP of Operations and Partnership of the Be the Change Foundation. She is leading all the projects and teams to the foundation. She has been in technical management position in various leading companies in Silicon Valley. She has a bachelor's and master's in computer science from Beijing University, and she has a PhD in computer engineering from Pennsylvania State University. She has more than 35 publications in top conferences and journals, and now she is utilizing all her creative leadership to mentor students in the foundation to reach their fullest potential. Hey, Ray, it's all
Yeah,
yours.
yes. Thank you, Matt. Yeah, so Be the Change Foundation is a nonprofit organization established in 2014 in Silicon Valley. And Dr. Elizabeth Xu is our founder and chairman. Our mission is to help young generations reach their fullest potential. Currently, we have more than 30 working professionals as volunteers from leading companies like Facebook, Apple, Google, and so on, and more than 100 student volunteers from high school and middle school, and also universities are all around the world. Our internship and volunteer are all online, and you can scan the WeChat QR code to join us or go to our website at bethechange.foundation to apply. The foundation is like an incubator. We create projects for students to participate and mentor them to create their own. Students will learn through doing things together, and they will improve their creativity, leadership, communication, and collaboration skills. The 4 skills that we believe are very critical to succeed in their future career. And this year, actually, we launched Youthpedia project for high school, middle school, and university students to collaborate and share their knowledge globally and with their peers. They can write anything: science, history, geography, culture, psychology, leading technologies, poem, novel, and their own stories. Here are some examples, like food around the world, fashion in ancient China, US presidents, world of sports. The ultimate format of each book is 3 to 8 minute video consisting of 8 to 10 Google Slides. And we call them video books, which will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. Matt, you can actually click one video book. We can play for 10 seconds.
And Zishan Liu. Meet George Washington, the first president of the United States.
Yeah, so students will not only get practice and guidance on writing, illustration, design, and video making, but also establish portfolios for university and job applications. They also have an opportunity to build their own teams, branch, and get reference letters, scholarships, and presidential volunteer service awards. Today, we especially thank our partner A2C. They continue to support and donate to us, and also Greenwell for this event's fundraising. Since for each sample you ordered, $1 will go to our foundation. So thank you again. And if the audience want to support these projects, you can donate through employee giving program in many of your companies. And we are actually 501c3 organization. Okay, I'll give back to Matt.
Thank you, Ray. So, next, we're gonna do the live tour. We'll give it back to Matt soon. Matt Carter, not me, not myself. Matt Carter is a retired teacher, born and raised in the Bay Area. He has lived in Hawaii for 25 years. Drawn to the Kona coffee world through an alternative education program, he felt a strong calling to be near the earth and in connection with the cycles of nature. He has dedicated what he calls the 4th chapter of his life to sustainable agriculture and education about island culture, history, and farming. Matt currently serves Greenwell Farms as tours and retail operations manager. Hey, Matt, it's yours.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm here with Chai Neo. She's our quality control specialist, and she's going to take over the second half of this. And on the camera today is Olivia. You can say hi.
I don't know how good that was.
And so the first thing I'd like to do is just show you the farm. This is a 5th generation family farm founded in 1850. The Greenwells still own it, operate it, and are very hands-on to the day-to-day. And, Tommy Greenwell, the current owner, described it to me as an honor and a big responsibility. He carries forth his family legacy, but there's a lot of pressure to perform. And so let's go take a look at the farm, and then we'll come back and talk some history, okay? Come on this way.
Okay.
Wow, this is awesome.
That's the ocean right there.
Yeah, that's the ocean in the background, and you're seeing orange trees around us. Now, when this farm was first founded, Henry Greenwell did plant 16 acres of oranges. He opened a general store at the top of the property. Over time, he became the school superintendent, the customs agent. He scheduled doctors. He did everything. But he found this coffee in Hawaii that was light and delicate and sweet. And at the time, you have to remember, they were selling green coffee, unroasted, and people roasted it at home. But he brought this coffee to the 1873 World's Fair in Vienna, and he got his first, commendation for excellence in coffee from the Expo Kaiser. And he brought that coffee to the Centennial Expo in Philadelphia in 1876. And so, he certainly didn't invent Kona coffee, but he was widely credited with bringing it to the world. So come on down this way. Let's go take a look at the coffee trees. Now, I know some of you commented that you were calling from Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and all sorts of very cold places, and my apologies. I hope you're safe, and I wish you're having a wonderful Thanksgiving next week. But I just want to show you the avocados. You've never seen the tree. That's how they grow.
Oh,
We have about 40 types of avocado that grow here in the state of Hawaii. It's big, long, small, fat, and all of them have different tastes. They're amazing. I think there's only a month or 2 months a year we don't have any avocados ripening on the farm. Other than that, we're full of guacamole. But come on,
that's awesome. Wow, this is so beautiful.
these are some of the beautiful hibiscus flowers that grow in Hawaii. They're all over the place. They come in orange and white and yellow and red, and they just sparkle. These are banana trees up here next to us. We grow them because we can. They're delicious, apple bananas. Come on this way.
So what's the difference, Matt, between apple bananas and the regular bananas?
The apple bananas have a little bit of tartness, so they're not quite as sweet as your regular banana, and they're a little bit smaller. But in Hawaii, I think it's one of the favorite eating bananas of the locals.
I see. Thank you.
Just want to get away from the noise a little bit, so come over to the trees. All right. So this is what a coffee tree looks like. This is a big field of about 35 acres of coffee. And growing on the branches here, and these trees were just picked, as you can see, there's some coffee cherries. Can you get in close on the green and the red here? Hopefully everybody can see that. Right?
I can see it clearly. It's nice.
Yeah, here's another red cherry right here.
Yeah.
And Kona coffee is all hand picked. So our workers come in and they pick only the red, and they start picking around July, and they'll finish picking around February. And July, August is a slow beginning, and then September, October, November, everything goes red at the same time, and it gets very busy. And then little by little, there's less and less coffee, and we usually finish by February. But holding in my hand here is an example of one of those cherries. And if you can kind of look, if I squeeze it, 2 coffee beans pop out like that. Okay. Now these are a little gooey and sticky. They have a fruit mucilage around them, and we have to process that by, you'll notice on the bags, if you got the samples, that it says wash method. We put that in water, we let it ferment just slightly, we rinse it off, then we lay it up on the drying decks. And as you can see in the distance out there, it's a little bit noisy, but those guys are on the drying decks. They lay out that coffee, they rake it every 30 minutes or so, and we let it dry to about 10.5% moisture. And then it's ready for the second stage. Come on down this way. It's a beautiful day in Hawaii. It's about, I think, 84, 85 degrees right now. Sunny, a little bit of clouds down there. Mountain is perfectly clear. You can see that. And I wish you could all come to Hawaii. I really do.
We will go. We will go find you next year. So we're gonna bring our whole class.
Yeah, next year she said she'll find us.
Yeah, we will. And Matt and I were talking about next year we can have a reunion at Hawaii and in Hawaii, and then we can maybe have an executive retreat at your coffee place.
Yeah.
Excellent. We look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, I'd love to, Matt.
Hopefully the world will go back to normal soon, right?
I
It
hope
will.
so.
It will.
I have confidence. That's a giant avocado tree over there. If you can see that, that's a really big one. Mango tree behind us. That's mango. We have a lychee or lychee, papayas, everything. You think?
Yeah, this reminds me Thailand. I lived in Thailand for 2 years. And of course, Thailand weather is not as nice as Hawaii. It's too hot. But the mango trees and durian trees, well, you don't have durans, but the mango is awesome.
Now, I don't have any for sale on the website because it comes in very small supply, but this is a pepper vine. And a lot of people don't know that in addition to coffee, we are a commercial pepper grower. And these are dehydrated into just regular black peppercorns. It is by far the most delicious black pepper you've ever had in your life. And like I said, I don't have any to sell you. I just want to let you know, but once you try that, you cannot go back to regular pepper. It's so vibrant and herbaceous, and it's just amazing. Amazing stuff.
I'd have to agree with that one.
Wow, it sounds like I want to make my steak and using your peppercorns.
Exactly. Steak, you put it just on a fried egg, and that fried egg is lifted to a whole different level of taste. It's just amazing.
Now I can smell it, Matt.
Now, we're going to walk into the nursery here, and this is where we have the baby coffee tree. And the predominant method, we seed grow them, but eventually the coffee is going to be grafted, and I'll explain how that process works. So these are the babies. Everybody can see these. At any given moment, there's 30 to 40,000 babies growing down here, and they go from newborns to three years old or so. But if you can, let me see if I can pick one here. You can get a close up on this right here. So there's three basic families of coffee: Liberica, Robusta, and Arabica. And Arabica is where specialty coffee comes from. It makes a very beautiful cup of coffee. So all the trees that we grow that make coffee for our farm are from the Arabica strain. We grow many different varieties of that. But the rootstock is from the family Liberica. And Liberica is not necessarily a great tasting cup of coffee, but the tree itself is super massive. It's strong. It's bug resistant. It's drought resistant. So we grow the seedlings of both to about this big, and then we clip the Liberica stem. And we take a razor blade, and you can actually see the little cut right there, and we make a little slit in it. And then we take this Arabica branch, which is about that big, and we whittle the bottom, it's called a scion, to an arrow point, and it literally, here's the rootstock, it literally goes right inside like that, and we have a clip that holds it together, and we let them fuse for about 2 months, and now you have the best of both worlds. You have a strong tree, but it's going to make a beautiful cup of coffee. And so in commercial farming, that's it's usual, grafting. You guys from Washington do it to apples and pears, and it's done in wine grapes, but that's the predominant way to propagate trees for our farm. Okay.
Love orchids.
Anybody want to guess what this is? No guesses?
Is that
Yeah, this is.
vanilla?
Say again?
Is that vanilla?
Yes, sir. Good answer. This is the vanilla orchid, and this is actually a vanilla bean that will later be cured into those beautiful beans you see in the store. Now we are a commercial vanilla grower as well. So we have the coffee, the pepper, the cacao. Coffee is our main thing, of course. But I just want to point out that these flowers have to be hand pollinated, and they allow for pollination about 8 hours a year. That's it. And so our nursery master, her name is Yvonne, she's watching very carefully, and they have a little matchstick. They take a bulb of pollen off the top of the flower, and there's a little flap, and they put it under. And if you do that correctly, you get a single vanilla bean from each flower. And from the moment you fertilize that flower until the moment you have a usable cured vanilla bean in your hand, it's almost 2 years. So it's a very slow, very precise process. But you'll notice in Hawaii that vanilla growing is going to be a more and more widely grown sustainable product here. Come on up this way.
Vanilla is very profitable there, right? As well, growing them.
Yeah, I mean that vanilla is so aromatic. It's I want to call it the best vanilla I've ever experienced, but I don't think I've experienced every vanilla. I know Mexico and Madagascar and Tahiti are famous, but you're gonna see, because University of Hawaii wants growers on the island to grow something that is a match for Hawaii. And this is the Orchid Island. That's its nickname, and that's an orchid. And it's perfect for this environment. It doesn't take too much from the land. It can grow with other things. And so it's a great product to grow through. Right. Now, as we're walking, hopefully I don't trip as I'm walking backwards.
Oh, do something. I'll give some sort of signal.
I'll be fine. But as we walk back up the hill towards chai and talk a little bit about history of coffee, I do want to let you know that when we pick the coffee, it has to go through a milling process. And so it goes through a machine called a pulper, and that separates the skin from the seed. The seed is then soaked in water, it's rinsed off, and it's laid up in the sun on drying decks. And to reduce it to the moisture content we need takes 6 or 7 days. Now we do have the option of air dryers, but as much as we can, we try to sun dry our coffee, okay? And then it comes into the building that's in front of us. After resting for a while, this warehouse has 5 industrial machines. And being Saturday, they're not open today, or I'd show you. But those machines do the final processing of coffee. So first machine is known as a huller. And it takes off the outer papery film of the coffee. And I want to show you what that looks like, okay? So once coffee is dried, it looks like this. And that huller breaks that open, and that outer papery film breaks off, and the green bean is revealed on the inside, right? Now that green bean sometimes has a secondary skin called the silver skin. That silver skin is polished off at the second stage. And then it goes into a screen sorter or a classifier. And what that does is it separates this by size. Now here's another question for everybody. Why is it important to separate your coffee by size?
Any gifts?
No answer?
Does it brew? It brews differently if they're all the same size. I mean, they're all big. Is that what you're saying?
Well, not necessarily brew, but roast different.
Roast it.
Right? So we
sure.
know in Cooking 101, if you chop a carrot and you put little chunks and big chunks in the same frying pan, the little ones cook faster, right?
Right.
And
That's
so
right.
if I try to throw all the different size coffee beans in the roaster, little ones cook fast, big ones cook slow, and it ends up being a terrible cup of coffee, dissonant flavors. You want a harmonious flavor. You want everything cooking together, getting to the same place. and that's why we separate that coffee. Now it's a little bit technical, but all that sizing is based on a 64th of an inch. So on the machine it says 19, 18, 17, 16, and that means 1964th, 1864th, and so on. But after it's USDA inspected, then that changes to a magical name. And in Kona Coffee, our grades are extra fancy, fancy, number one, select, Peaberry, and prime. And so very beautiful marketing names, but the meaning is 1964th, 1864th, and so on. Then in these machines,
So
the
Matt,
last
I
two
have a
machines,
question. So
yeah, go ahead.
does bigger size coffee better or smaller size coffee better?
Yeah, it's a great question. So definitely the bigger beans, known as extra fancy, sell for a premium. And the theory is that the outer surface when it's being cooked is actually burnt, but the flavor and aroma are the inside of the bean. So the larger the bean, the more of that flavor and aroma is packed into each one. However, the Peaberry, which I'm going to show you here in a second, is actually quite small, and many people think it's the best one. And so in the end, it's always going to be a preference, but certainly on the market, extra fancy and fancy they go for a higher price. They're sold at a premium for sure. Okay, come on up this way. I'll try to get the shade a little bit here. Let me see if I can get that out. Okay, so I mentioned the Peaberry, and I want everybody to know exactly what that is because you're going to hear about it more and more and more. But inside those coffee cherries I showed you, 95 to 97% look like this. There's two seed halves. There's a flat half and a round half. So they're hemispheric in shape, like a walnut, like a brain, etc. That accounts for 95 to 97%. But occasionally, you get one of those guys. See how it's round?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's known as the Peaberry. And what happens is one of these seeds doesn't fertilize correctly. It literally remains in the fruit as like a little thumbnail, but the other half folds over on top of itself. You can actually see the seam right there where it folded, and it produces a round seed. Now, it's over the years, I've heard many magical tales why peaberries are so good. Unfortunately, most of them were not true. But the one thing I can tell you is if you put that in a roaster, you see how they bounce and slide and hop, and see how that guy rolls around like a marble? For that reason, it cooks differently. Many people say it cooks more evenly. And so for that reason, it reveals the coffee lighter, more delicate, a little bit sweeter. So these used to be regarded as defect. Now they sell at a premium, $60 to $80 a pound for Peaberry in Kona. And don't think of it as a superior coffee. Think of it just as a preference. Do you like a milk chocolate or dark chocolate? Do you like, Cabernet or Pinot Noir? That's what we're referring to when we talk of Peaberry. Some people drink it, it's like a tea and it's fruity and sweet and amazing. And other people are like, give me a.
Yeah,
Keep it real.
so Matt, there are questions from the audience. He said,
Okay.
what grade of a coffee did we receive in our package?
Right. So most of the coffee that we're putting in those packages come from the #1 category. So extra fancy #1.
Great. Thank you. Another one that someone asked is what determines the acidity of the coffee?
Right. That's a great question that we are going to talk about that when we get back up and talk about Kona coffee. But there's three things that drive it. One is the variety of the tree. One is the area that it's growing in. And then one is the actual roast level on the coffee. And all those things can contribute to the acidity level of that coffee. Other questions? Throw them out, please.
I think not for now, maybe later on. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. We're going to head back up the hill, and I want to talk a little bit about the history of coffee when we get up there. This farm, its total size is roughly 300 acres, not in a contiguous patch, but spread around. On that, we are developing close to 200 acres of coffee itself. but we are also, in addition to being a farm, we're a processing facility. And what that means is we buy certified Kona coffee from hundreds of other farms in the Kona coffee belt. Now I'm going to explain what the Kona coffee belt is here in a couple seconds, but it's a growing region. And in that belt, there might be 800 small farms. And these are basically family farms. Grandma, grandpa, mom and dad, and kids in many cases on 3 to 5 acres. And so they don't have any infrastructure to process the coffee. So we refer to them as cherry farmers. They just grow the fruit and they have to sell it to a processing facility, which we are. We're a farm and we're a processing facility. So 90% of the Kona growers, I wanted to show you this. You see all the avocados on the ground over there? Wow.
I need to come back and pick them now that you're showing me.
Yeah, it's like bowling balls. Look at it.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That's huge.
Yeah, these avocados are very tasty. So many on the ground here.
Now I have to come back down and pick them.
You know you're in paradise when you can just walk around and pick avocados off the ground, right?
Yeah,
Anyway,
Yeah.
this is
this
real.
one, little monk said, bye-bye. Okay, so what I was going to say was in that Kona coffee region, 90% of the farmers are cherry farmers. They don't process the coffee. They just grow it and sell it. There's about 9.5% of farms that are called independent labels. And what independent labels do is they want to sell their coffee direct to the consumer or to business. So sometimes they have a cafe, sometimes they have an Amazon store, sometimes they have a special channel where they sell their coffee. Independent labels sometimes have us process part of their coffee and then we give it back to them. Sometimes they have us do everything and we give it back to them and then they sell it. And then the mills, the processing facilities right now in Kona, there's not very many. There's a couple big ones and a couple small ones, but that means those 4 to 6 facilities are processing the bulk of Kona coffee. So I know it changes every year, but on any given year, this farm is going to process between 1/4 and 1/3 of all Kona coffee grown, which by the way is not a lot. People are often surprised to hear that if you take the world coffee supply in this hand and the Kona coffee supply in this hand, Kona coffee represents under 1/10% of the world's coffee supply.
Wow.
It's a tiny amount. And that's one of the reasons it's so expensive.
But it's
other
very
factor-
well thought of and it's very well liked, even if it's a small amount.
Well, yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's an amazing, amazing coffee. And it really, I'm in a coffee club and I get coffee from all over the world. And I'm always side by side comparing. And there's just a few characteristics about Kona that set it apart from all the others. So we're almost back at the shop, and I want to talk to you a little bit about the history of coffee. So let's head up the hill here and see what we can do.
So Matt.
Yeah.
We have a couple questions from online. So Nathan was asking, when I roast coffee, a skin falls off. Is that because the coffee was not well milled?
No, probably it's chaff that you're talking about, or chafe. And come this way. I roast coffee in a cast iron pan quite frequently, and I have the same thing, which my wife makes me roast it outside now. She no longer lets me do it in the house because all that little papery film in the center of the coffee that gets trapped, it burns off and it goes all over the kitchen. So it's a very, very normal part of roasting coffee.
Right. Another question from Aaron. Is coffee native to Hawaii?
It is not. You're about to find that out right now. It's native to Ethiopia.
Yeah. Another question from Susie. Is it true that coffee grown in the shade is less acidic?
It's a great question. So coffee naturally in its native environment in Ethiopia is an under canopy bush. So it likes that filtered sunlight. And certainly there's a lot of case to be made that shade grown coffee matures a little slower and it makes the fruit a little sweeter and better tasting. But in Kona, the predominant way that that's accomplished is through afternoon cloud cover. I mean, there are some shade-grown farms here that have big trees, but mostly speaking, we have sunny mornings and cloudy afternoons at this elevation, and that cloud acts as the filter.
We do have a one last question before. Oh, we have a little bit more coming in, but we'll ask this one last one, and then we'll go over the history, and we'll have the other questions by the end. Someone asked, I have noticed the coffee that has a slight amount of moist oil on the surface seems more fragrant and flavorful than drier looking beans. Can you comment on that?
Sure. So when you French roast your coffee, that's going to bring it to the darkest end of the roast spectrum. It does reveal the oils. It extracts the oils from inside the beans. Is it too dark?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what that means is you're going to get a smoky, sweet smell, but I cannot say that it's a better coffee because it's just a preference. Some people love that oily, rich taste, and other people don't. But what I will tell you is the lighter the roast, the more origin character. So if you're buying a Kona or an Ethiopian or a Costa Rican and you drink it at the light or medium roast level, you're going to get a lot of the flavors that represent that area. But when you roast it to that French or Italian level where all the oils are extracted and shiny, you're getting a lot of the cook characteristics. Okay, and so I'm not saying it's bad. In the end, it's all preference, but you're not experiencing the characteristics that make that coffee unique to that region. You're getting the cook taste of that coffee. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that also part of the reason that why all the coffee chain shops like Starbucks and I mean other ones, they most of their coffee are dark roasted?
Well, there's several reasons for that, and don't think for a moment that they don't know what they're doing, because they do, right? If you buy a black cup of coffee at Starbucks, it's like $3. If you add some foam and cream and oil and sprinkles to it, it's $7.25, right? That's good for them. And then in addition to that, adding all that stuff to your coffee, you need a very bold roast to have the coffee flavors come through. And then as you just mentioned, if you're buying coffee from all over the world and you want consistency in your shops, if you bring it to that very dark roast level, it tastes very similar. And now I don't have to worry about, the bright acidity here or that. I can make a very consistent cup of coffee. Yeah. You want to sit over there?
That's great.
You're okay. So, guys, let me tell you a little bit about the history of coffee and a little bit about what makes Kona coffee special and unique. And then let's have our Q&A session, okay? It was asked earlier, but coffee is native to Ethiopia. Nobody knows exactly when it was discovered, but there's a legend that the goat herders were watching their goats eat those red berries on the trees, and the goats were getting, excited, caffeinated, jumping and playing, and the goat herders like, let me try that, and they felt the same way. And this begins this evolution of boiling it in water and then cooking it and eventually becoming, what we know as coffee. But Somali traders used to trade between Ethiopia and what is modern day Yemen. And the Yemenis really became the first commercial coffee farmers on the planet Earth. And they spread that throughout Arabia, throughout the Arab world. And of course, there were attempts to ban it for its, medicinal, properties and all the funny things that coffee do, but it always won out. People always liked it more than they disliked it. And then in the rise of the Ottoman Empire, this is Turkey we're talking about, they take it over. They try to monopolize the coffee trade. And now you get the custom of making this very fine grind and putting it in the cup and pouring the water in there, and you let the ground sit and you drink off the top of the cup, sometimes adding a little bit of sugar. And the rise of cafes and coffee houses, if you're being honest about it, this is an Arabian Turkish culture that spread around the world. And this will play a big role later when coffee gets to Europe. But the Ottoman Empire, in their process of monopolizing coffee, mistakenly introduced it into Europe. And I'm going to skip a couple parts here, but in around 1683, the Ottoman Turks were surrounding the city of Vienna, and it was known as the Second Siege of Vienna. They were going to cut it off and attack it. And the Austrian army was seriously outnumbered. But there's this Polish spy. His name was Karl Franz Kolschitsky. He crossed enemy lines and he spied on all the positions of the Ottoman troops. And just as he came back to report, the Polish army arrived. You have to remember, this is a Christian-Muslim battle thing. And he reported on all the troop positions. And so they were able to attack perfectly. And the Ottoman Turks had to escape. And when they left behind all their supplies. And it included 500 sacks of green, unroasted coffee. Now, I pose this question to you all. If you didn't know what this was, and someone came off the street and said, "What's that?" What would you say? You know, a moldy peanut or a lentil, or, you know, and that was the problem the Viennese had. They didn't know what it was. But Karl, he knew what it was. And he actually opened a cafe using that war spoils coffee, and came up with some nice innovations, adding milk to coffee, filtering coffee through a linen sock is all credited to the Viennese there. And don't get me wrong, I'm being simplistic. Coffee appeared in the 1615 to 18 in Italy, a little bit later in France, but it really became popular in Vienna. And then you see the rise of coffee spreading across the European continent, including coffee houses. Now, here's a very interesting historical, I don't want to call it a fact, but it mostly is considered to be true, is that what we call the Age of Enlightenment, which goes from the late 1600s all the way through the 1700s to the early 1800s, is partially credited to coffee, and in two ways. One is you have a population who wakes up every morning and drinks alcohol, mostly watered down ale, beer, or wine. And they drink that alcohol all day long. Now, they could drink water, but they had to take care of that water. They'd get sick. And so drinking that alcohol solved the problem. Now you have them setting down that alcohol in favor of caffeinated beverages, basically coffee and tea. And so instead of being half hungover and half drunk all day, now they're awake and they're motivated and they want to talk about stuff and they have good plans in their brain. And the second stage was, with the rise of these cafes, it was a place, I'm going to just jump and say it was equivalent to the internet of our generation. They could go to these cafes and they could listen to speeches and lectures and music and have discussions. And by the time it got to London, they were calling those cafes penny universities, where for the price of a cup of coffee, which was a penny, 1 pence, right? You could discuss, and these are different classes of society and different members and all sorts of things. And you could basically find information that was not available to you. So, I mean, in that regard, coffee really changed the landscape of the European consciousness. So we brought it with us to the colonies in the States. Now, I will back up one moment and tell you that it's during that time in Europe in the 17 and 1800s where you have the colonies around the world, in South America and Indonesia, where England and France and Spain and Portugal bring coffee because it's a tropical crop. It grows basically between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, which is 23 degrees north or south of the equator. And so they brought it to their colonies to plant. And so I'm going to skip this because I hate talking about it, but it's dark days. I mean, it's the subjugation of native population and some slave-like conditions. And it was a hard thing that the industry is beginning to change very dramatically. But the American colonists were basically tea drinkers until 1773. Who remembers the famous event in 1773 that changed us? Tell me, what is it?
Pat, you're on mute.
That's what, yeah, I just unmuted. That's when we were declaring our Declaration of Independence from Great Britain, and we didn't want to drink their tea anymore. We threw the tea in the Boston Harbor.
Exactly. That's
Elizabeth,
right.
you've been there. You've seen that. Yeah.
So we dumped 92,000 pounds of that Indian/British tea into Boston Harbor, and it was immediately unpatriotic to touch the tea. So Americans became coffee drinkers almost overnight. And whether, John Adams famously didn't care for coffee, but he drank it because he thought it was a patriotic duty. Ben Franklin, the same way. And if you drink coffee for several weeks or months, you learn to like it. You learn to appreciate it. And so Americans switched over, and now it spreads westward. It follows the growth of America across the continent there, but it didn't make it to Hawaii. It
You
came
were
to
correct
Hawaii.
about the alcohol drinking at that point. They drank a lot of alcohol, and for the reasons you gave. Yeah.
Yeah. So in Hawaii, coffee starts in Brazil, and it's brought over to Oahu, where our capital Honolulu is. And a couple trees were planted in the governor's garden. And then a priest by the name of Samuel Ruggles, who literally his church was 10 minutes from where I'm sitting here, he planted 2 cuttings of those trees behind his church. And over the years, his parishioners would spread seeds and cuttings into this Kona area. Now, there wasn't yet a defined, Kona coffee belt yet, but they just realized over the years of growing it that this coffee was good. It was amazing. It was sweet. And travelers like Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens, famously writes about it. He says, no matter where you go, no matter what country you visit, you will not find a sweeter cup of coffee than in Kona. And so it begins to build its reputation from there. Now that should take us full circle back to when our founder, Henry, shows up in 1850. But if you come over to the map with me, and Matt, you have a slide of this. This is the big island of Hawaii. And there's a red circle here on the west coast, and this is known as the Kona Coffee Belt. So the Kona Coffee Belt is roughly 35 miles long. Say again?
He just started screen share.
Okay, so he's showing you that slide, but it's roughly 35 miles long as the crow flies, 1.5 miles to 2 miles wide. Elevation goes from 500 at the lower end to 3,200 feet, and that little narrow band is where your Kona coffee comes from. There may be roughly 800 small farms there, as we talked about earlier, and the growing conditions in that Kona Coffee Belt. And when I say growing conditions, I'm talking about rainfall. We get average 60 inches of rain a year here on the farm. The sunny mornings and cloudy afternoons, the slightly acidic volcanic soil, the dry season coinciding with flowering and the wet season with growing, and all these things and more in combination make that fruit taste very unique. And so if you take these Arabica trees out of Kona and put them anywhere else in the world, they just won't taste the same. The French refer to that as a terroir, a growing region that produces characteristics in that fruit that can't be reproduced outside. So how about some questions?
Yeah, we got 2 questions. Oh, well, actually 3. So Michael was asking, what is the process and result of polishing?
Basically, it's the second stage of the hulling machine, and it rolls that coffee on little tiny teeth, and it takes off the silver skin. And just keep the camera there. I'll be right back.
If you need my sample, come over there too. Okay.
So back in the old days, it's impossible to scrape off. It's impossible to scrape off all that silver skin quickly. It takes a long time. It's a secondary film. So in the old days, they used to just cook it with that skin on. But it does create smoke, and it does change the taste of the coffee. And so that's the difference between polished and unpolished. I don't know if you can see that. That's the nice shiny green polished bean. So now when you cook it, you're not getting any additional smoke or flavoring burning off in that process. So it makes your taste much cleaner.
Yeah. Nathan was asking, I don't see much light roast Kona coffee. Why not? Is it market demand?
Say that again, please.
Nathan was asking, he didn't see much of light roasted Kona coffee on the market. Is that market demanding or?
Right. So Shai had told me once, Kona coffee is very naturally acidic, has very bright acidity that comes from the fruit. Now that's a positive quality in Kona coffee. It's something that you're looking for. It sparkles on the tip of your tongue. But because of that, if you cook it lighter than basically a medium roast, you're going to notice it's quite sour. And there are coffees around the world that lend themselves to lighter roasts. But I mean, in Kona, it's pretty rare to find a light roast. It's just going to be sour.
Is from my personal experience, is pea berry coffee less acidic in general?
It's, again, this is one of those things they talk about.
Yeah.
Pea berry comes from the same tree, the same variety, the same everything, except it's round and cooks differently. And so I know people will tell you it's easier on the stomach and it's less acidic. And as far as I know, and I don't know everything, there's just no proof to say that it's less acidic or it's more this or it's more that. Only thing really different about it is shape.
Yeah. And yeah, what is the latest news about the coffee rust? Is it in Hawaii?
Right. So if you don't know what he's talking about, he asked about the coffee leaf rust. And this is a fungus they discovered in Maui about a month ago. And then they found it in Hilo. And then they found a couple instances of it here in Kona. Now, our owner has scoured this farm top to bottom, and he's confident we don't have it here yet. But it doesn't mean he's not taking steps to prevent that. There's another fungus that we've been treating the trees for a long time, and the treatment protocol is similar to the rust, and so we think that's helped to keep it at bay. But we've had to modify our tours slightly because it's a spore, and it gets on your shirt, and then you rub up against trees, you can spread it that way. So at the moment, it's not killing Kona coffee, but I will tell you, on the very first day Tommy Greenwell heard about that rust, he instructed our nursery master, Yvonne, to start growing 60,000 baby Arabica trees of 2 strains that are coffee leaf rust resistant. And that's his brilliance. He's a smart guy, and he's knowing that 5 years later, 10 years later, I'm going to need those trees perhaps, and I'm going to start now to get ready for that.
That sounds fantastic. I hope it doesn't get to Kona.
So you'll see on the slide that we start with the coffee cherries. That's in the burlap sack. And they go through a milling process at the wet mill. That's on the slide where it separates the skin from the seed. The seeds are soaked in water for 16 to 24 hours to let that fruit mucilage loosen up. They're washed off. They're laid up on the drying decks, and that's what you're seeing where it says sun-dried. They rake that every 30 minutes. And their goal is to reduce it to about 10.5% moisture. From there, it goes, takes a rest in the warehouse for about 30 days. And then we take it to the dry mill. And that's where the hulling happens. It's where we size sort. It's where we take out the defects through the gravity table and then optical sorting. And that optical sorter is this supercomputer that it's kind of like FBI face recognition software where we type in profiles in the computer like light and dark and dots and funny shapes. And it's photographing these coffee beans hundreds of times per second. And if it finds one that's considered a defect, there's a pneumatic system under the plate that goes and it knocks that seed over. So your good coffee continues down and your rejects go over the side. And so that takes you to one step before roasting. And I am going to talk about roasting with Chai when we start the second session. So please hang on for that because she's a master of the roasting process. But basically, seed to green bean, that's the process. And this farm's main business is actually selling the green coffee. We put that on big shipping containers. We send it to Oakland, California, and it goes out and feeds all of the contracts that our marketer, Pat, signed on the previous year. And it can go to big companies and medium companies, and even a single restaurant may want 50 pounds that they contract for. But that's the bulk of our coffee. The remaining 10% about is what we roast here twice a week, every Friday and Tuesday. And that's what we sell at our shop and what we sell on our website. And those of you that got the sampler pack, that was literally roasted the morning that we roasted that morning, we packaged it up and we sent it out. And the good thing is coffee gets better the next couple of days after roasting. So I'm hoping you guys got it in perfect condition.
Yeah.
I do want to mention one thing before we go to the giveaway.
Yeah.
And it's a tug of war that's been happening here in Kona for about 15, 20 years now. And I want you guys as consumers to be aware of it. And what the tug of war is between your 100% Kona coffee growers and your 10% lenders. Now, I'm not talking about mainland lenders, because most reputable lenders on the mainland, they're artists and they're using those different coffees as their color palette, and they're putting together coffees, and they're going to tell you on the bag what percentage you have. We don't do any blending on this farm. Everything we sell is 100% Kona coffee. But part of the industry has gone towards the 10% model, which means they put 10% of the lowest grade of Kona they can source, 90% of South American coffee, usually, sometimes different, but mostly, and they sell it here for about $8 a half pound. And there's no information on that bag about what's in there, except it says this bag contains not less than a minimum of 10% Kona coffee. And the law here says you don't have to say what the other 90% is. And we actually had that law changed in the 80s from 2% to 10, but we've battled it. We want truth in advertising. And so if you're shopping Kona coffee on the web, if you're in Hawaii or you're looking around, make sure you understand that these coffees say Kona Classic and Kona Smile and Kona Sunset. They use our name to sell 90% coffee not from Kona. The law here says if it's 100%, it has to say on the bag 100% Kona coffee, and you can trust it. But I just want you to understand that that's a battle that's happening here for a long time, and basically buyer beware. You know, our owner made the decision many years ago that he wants the Kona brand name to be a shining example of beautiful coffee. He doesn't want to water it down, if you will. And that's what blenders do, is they you know, people will come to Hawaii, they'll drink the 10%. That's awful. You know, why would I spend $40 a pound for Kona coffee? It's terrible. Well, you didn't drink Kona coffee. And I ask you guys, can you think of another industry that, you know, 10% Colgate toothpaste, does it exist? No. 10% Dom Perignon champagne? No. So I just throw that out there as a buyer beware.
Sounds good. We do have a lot of questions. I'm thinking maybe we'll address probably 3 for now, and then we'll come back after the break. Let me ask, so how do you roast coffee at home?
I personally do it in a cast iron pan. I have a very small cast iron pan that I got at Walmart for, I think it was $9.95. And that's how I roast green coffee at home. I don't do it every day or every week, but we do demonstrations for the coffee festival. Sometimes I want to try a different coffee and I want to control the roast on it. It just depends. And so at our farm, of course, we use industrial drum roasters made by the Dietrich company.
All right. Are you still growing MoMA coffee?
Say again?
Are you still growing MoMA coffee? MoMA.
Oh, Mama.
Oh, Mamo.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Chai actually just finished a huge project where she had to cup each individual tree in the Mamo field so they could pick the best ones that they could clone from there. How long did that take you?
3 months.
3 months, yeah, of
Wow.
cupping literally every tree. It's an amazing thing that she does.
Yeah. Cool. Could you comment on the relationship between the roasting and the caffeine level?
Caffeine.
The roasting and the
Caffeine.
Caffeine level.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. So you want to answer that?
No, you answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So definitely speaking, the lighter roasts have more caffeine. It's not that caffeine breaks down on heat. It doesn't. It's very stable to heat. But the longer you roast coffee, the more mass of coffee is burned off and it becomes lighter. So a French roasted coffee, we did an experiment just last week where I had one of our staff weigh 10 grams of medium roast and 10 grams of our French roast, which is our espresso roast. 53 coffee beans equal 10 grams on the medium, and 79 coffee beans equal 10 grams on the espresso roast, because they get more porous and they get lighter. So as you lose that mass, you lose caffeine. However, Chai has told me on many occasions, and they've actually tested the caffeine content, is between a light roast and a French roast, there might be 5% difference in caffeine. So it's different, but it's not hugely different. There's a small difference. So if you're sensitive, you might notice it if you're drinking lighter roasts, but most people, I don't think they're going to notice too much.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Just one last one before we head off. What does washed mean on coffee label?
Right. So you remember when we were talking about the coffee process, we take the skin completely off, and we soak that coffee in water, let it ferment so we can get that mucilage off, then we rinse it and lay it up on the drying deck. So there's no, the skin is not involved in that process. This is known as the washed method. There's another method known as natural or partial dry or dry, where they leave the coffee either partially with skin in it or completely in the skin and let it kind of dry out that way, and then remove it in a later process. I'd say in the last, 5 years or so, natural coffees have kind of made a comeback. But I've asked our owner about this directly a couple times, and he believes that the washed method reveals the cleanest cup. It really reveals all the characteristics without another set of another set of stuff coming in and changing what's natural to the fruit itself.
Sounds great. Thank you. Thank you so much. I know you need to set up your setup for making coffee. So we will head over to Jenny. Jenny, you're here?
Yes.
Okay. It's all yours.
Hello, everyone. Aloha. Welcome to the raffle. I'm Jenny, the host of today's Lucky Life Draw. On behalf of the A2C Academy and Be the Change Foundation, I want to thank Dr. Xu for contributing to today's raffle.
Yeah, thank you. And then the gift certificates can be used for online classes for your children, for yourself. The children's like turn your kids' gaming addiction into game creation. We have 2 outstanding, instructors. One graduated from Stanford, another one graduated from the Art College Center, which is the best gaming art college. So you can literally use that for your children, for yourself, to really improve your business communication. And there's so many things you can do. And or just take the great luck and then feel great. As Jenny said, that life is like a coffee, it's bitter. But this $100 or $200 gift certificate can be the sugar to make your coffee taste better, make your life more meaningful and much happier. Okay, and thank you. And let's resume.
Yeah, so we will move on to our second half. We will talk about roasting, and also we will make coffee together.
Okay.
It will be, this part will be introduced by the Q grader from Greenwell Farms. Her name is Chai Neo. She was born and raised in Singapore. For the last 10 years, she has dedicated her life to coffee, earning her Q grader license in 2013. She currently serves Greenwell Farms as the quality control specialist. Under the mentorship of the farm owner, Tom Greenwell, Chai has earned the operation hands-on and helps to evolve our coffee quality from seed to cup. She is actively involved in Greenwell's most important coffee projects, including hybridization, special varietals, processing methods, and emerging flavor profiles. And with a big smile, Chai is consistently raising the bar for Greenwell's 100% Kona coffee.
Yay.
Hey, Chai, welcome.
Hi, everybody.
So the first thing we'd like to talk about is roasting.
Okay.
So they have a medium, private reserve, and a dark.
Yeah.
Could you tell us the difference between them?
All right. So you well, on the tour with Matt, you did see the green bean that was unroasted, right? That's absolutely the green bean stage that has no flavor at all. So what we do is we put that green bean into this drum that is already preheated to 350 to 380 degrees. And then we lower this bean into the drum, and then the bean is cold, so the temperature will drop. And then it will level off, and then in the drum, the bean will start to absorb the heat. And then of course, the bean will start to change its dynamics. And then you'll get a first crack around 385 degrees Fahrenheit. And then that's where we are going to see the bean development in the chart, that around 385, we hear the crack, and then the bean starts to become like a cinnamon color. And then when we come to our first bag here, there's the medium roast, and that is developed after the first crack about 1.5 minutes. We look for color, and we look for time, how much we have roasted. And then when all those profile and criteria come together, we release the bean down for cooling.
Let me ask you a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
From green to first crack is how many minutes?
About 16 to 18 minutes, depending on batch size and the moisture in the coffee.
And then from that first crack to medium roast, 1.5 minutes.
Correct, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. And then we develop the bean for another 1 minute or 1.5 minutes that will reach your full sitting. And then we develop a bit longer to another 1.5 minutes, then that will be your dark. So this is the range of coffee we have for you here that I heard someone ask for oily coffee.
Yes,
so
yes.
That's not going into that range. This range of coffee really give you the terra characteristics, and then a little bit more sweetness and fruity, and chocolate. Yeah. So this range is a very beautiful cup to express Kona in a cup right here.
Thanks. Another question we were talking about that I know everybody's interested in. So does different brewing methods change the taste of coffee?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes. So let's say you want a coffee that is of a heavier body, and you want it fast. So that would be your French press. Okay, French press is very easy to use. And then you will have to grind your whole bean to slightly coarser. And then you are going to put your coffee in there, and then water, and then let it steep for 4 minutes, and then put the plunger on, and then press the plunger all the way, and then pour your coffee, and then enjoy. And then the other one is
what are the characteristics of French press that make it so good?
Oh, wonderful. No filter. You really taste what the coffee is trying to share with you, and heavier body.
Heavier body. So more oil is extracted.
Not oil, but the flavor in the coffee, and the body is the tactile sensation that is more giving you the enjoyment of heavy body and flavor together. This one here is an AeroPress. AeroPress is the same principle as the French press, just that this is now great for traveling. Now, I personally don't enjoy coffee given by the hotel or given by the airline. So I bring my own Kona coffee with me, and I will put my coffee after I put the paper filter given by this, and then I put my coffee in there, and then I will say it'll give you the markings of how many cups, and then you just push this down to your cup, and then you can enjoy your coffee in your hotel room, or you can enjoy your coffee given by the water from the flight attendant, and then you can enjoy this coffee on an airplane. So this is a AeroPress, very durable and very easy to travel with. It comes in a bag, and you just have to bring your good coffee along with you to your destination. The next one that we have is This one here is called a pour over, and a pour over is a single cup capacity. And this one here is nice because I like this coffee when you enjoy. It's a single cup and it doesn't waste coffee. You make one cup only to enjoy and then you don't waste it. So this is a pour over. You can buy this Kalita. Amazon has it. It comes with a kit with a device, filter, and a receptor for you. Okay. All right. So that is your different method. And of course, our last one here we'll be using today is Chemex. You can see the Chemex here, and it comes with a kit too. Chemex brewer with a different filter. And this one here, we really enjoy this. The coffee is super, super clean because you can see the filter is way, way dark, thicker. Okay.
Any quick questions about that? Let me see if I can read them here.
Okay.
No, looks like we're good.
Yeah, if I'm going too fast, just stop me and then we can always repeat.
Because everyone's going to follow us along at home. So you need hot water.
Yeah.
And what's the ratio of water to coffee that we're going to be doing today?
It's 1 pot coffee, 16 or 17 parts water. So for here, I have cheated a little bit. I weigh out 20 grams of my coffee. And I already weigh out 340 grams of water. And I have already placed a marking where my water should stop. So I will be using this way of showing with you. Or you can always get a scale like this that has a weight, weight and a timer. So we always want a 4 minutes, 3.5 to 4 minutes brew time. So
there's a couple of things I'd like you at home to set up. So first thing is you're going to need 3 cups.
Yeah, 3 cups.
The reason is we want you to save coffee from the first one. So when you make your medium, don't drink it all. Save some of it. And then when you make your private reserve, save some so that you have all 3 to go back and forth side by side.
Yeah, yeah.
If you don't have a scale, so she said she weighed 20 grams of coffee to 340 grams of water. But if you don't have a scale at home, what you can do is find the 6-ounce coffee cup. That's a small sized coffee cup, and get a tablespoon, the kind you cook with. And basically you can take a basic flat tablespoon that you'll use for each cup. So if you're going to do this pour over system at home as well, so 6-ounce cup of water, flat tablespoon of coffee. Okay, that should give you about the same ratio.
Yeah.
How about water temperature?
Temperature 195 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. And also depending on where you are on the elevation, it might boil a little bit different. But here at Greenwell Farms, it's 1,500, so 195 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit.
Now we can see the temperature on the pot here, but if you're at home and you're just boiling it on the stove, so you don't want to put boiling coffee water on the coffee, right?
Yeah, just let it cool for about maybe 1 minute or a minute and a half, and then you can start using it.
I see. Yeah. So you boil it, and then let it sit for about a minute, and then start to pour it over your coffee. And how many minutes are you gonna set this brew up for? Like how what's the time frame?
3.5 to 4 minutes brew time.
Okay, yeah. 3.5 to 4. So you actually use a timer for that?
I have a timer right here, and now everybody have a watch, and Apple Watch, they all have a timer. Okay. Or your phone, it's easy to use. So get all those devices ready, and we will get the tasting going.
Now, the question is, do we need to wet the filter, or we don't need to?
I normally wet my filter because some dust, just to remove the dust, and I wet the filter through the right into the my Chemex, is because I at the same time I'm going to heat up this Chemex. So doing 2 things at one time. Okay?
Right. So please show us how. Okay. And again, at home, follow along as best you can. It doesn't have to be exact, but follow along. And she's going to go ahead and wet that filter, heat up the Chemex just a slightly bit.
Okay, so I'm going to steal some water from here, and I'm going to.
There was someone asking which coffee are we making right now?
So we're going to do medium first. Yeah, medium first.
Medium. Okay. Yeah. So the water will be medium, and then private reserve.
That's correct.
Yes. Okay, and then dark. Okay.
So you can see I already pre-wet my filter, And then I'm going to, of course, discard this water that I have used. And you can see the steam coming off, which is very good. And now I'm going to use my 20 grams or whatever you're using right onto the filter. And then of course, my water is already preset to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, 195 to 200. And now I'm going to start my brew. So I'm going to start my timer. Okay, and then I'm going to now, as you can see, I'm going to now swirl, and you can see that bloom right there in my coffee. Now you don't completely pour all the water that you want. You're going to let the coffee and the water saturate at that level, and then you can see the coffee is filtration.
Right. So how long do you want to let it sit after that first initial pour?
About maybe 30 seconds or so to just let the water and the coffee converse a little bit. And then I'm right now into 38 seconds, and then I can just continue to swirl around. And then you're going to see and enjoy that crema being developed. And then you're going to, of course, while you're brewing, this is just like you talking with the coffee, smell it. The coffee is trying to show you all the smell. Show you all the character. That's what I'm saying. I forgot something.
Okay.
And because they still have coffee in their bag.
Right.
So I would really like them, the next one on the private reserve, to smell the coffee before brewing. Yeah, because that's the one thing you can enjoy about Kona coffee is it's so aromatic before you even brew it. So for our medium, you can smell that it's really spicy. It's a warm product. When you smell it, spice, chocolate, sweet, nut, and fruity, raisins and chocolate and cherry all combined in one. It's really very, very beautiful. So, and then now I'm into my 1 minute and almost close to 2 minutes. So I'm going to continue, and I'm going to watch my water level too.
And you're aiming for the center and just doing little small circles from the center outwards.
Center outwards. And then also sometimes I cut something on the next to the water filter. I can use the water to bring it to the center. See that beautiful crema right there?
Nice.
Isn't that pretty?
Yeah.
Now, hopefully everyone's doing this at home and you're getting a similar result. And we're going to go nice and slow, degas that coffee, get all the carbon dioxide out of it. Let that beautiful taste and aroma come into the liquid down below.
So Chai, for pour over coffee, some of us have that kit with a metal mesh filter.
Yeah.
Do we need to also put a paper filter on top of that metal?
Yes, you need a paper filter. When you buy from Amazon, it all comes as a kit with filter and this device, Kalita, and a filter and the carafe.
But he's had a metal mesh.
If you have a metal mesh, no need. Yeah.
Okay.
If you have metal mesh, no need. Okay.
Does the water filter affect the like some of the flavor from the coffee, or does it filter out some of the things?
Metal filter?
No, the paper filter. Or do you say paper or metal?
Yeah, paper. Sorry, paper filter. Does it filter out some flavor from the coffee?
For Chemex, no, because Chemex use high quality product to produce this. For this, be careful when you buy outside. Make sure that some people go with the brown one. So far, I prefer it doesn't really affect too much for us. I don't mind the white one, which is bleached, but it really didn't go into our tasting.
Right.
Right, because when you do a professional coffee tasting, there's no filter. You just pour the water into the coffee, and then you drink it with a spoon, right?
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, I will show you a little bit, maybe at the end, a little trivia on how we do cupping here.
Yeah.
So I'm almost there already, and then I'm at my mark. So I'm just gonna let it completely do the filter, and we'll be able to enjoy this together.
So another thing I was reading, so for you mentioned French press, you need like a little more coarse grind, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
for the pour over, is it similar to like a
Yes.
medium to?
Yeah, medium fine.
Right.
Okay, we're ready with our brew. And then now we need to put this filter out. And then when you enjoy it, remember to give it a swirl, okay? And then you're making it into a homogeneous product here. And then you're going to now enjoy this coffee. Are folks at home ready to enjoy just like us here before we describe this coffee?
Hopefully everybody
Analysts,
I see something.
if you're making coffee, you can turn on your camera so that we can all see you and share the experience together.
Okay, and bring the coffee right to your nose to enjoy, okay? Smelling it first, okay? Yeah, okay. We're now going to enjoy this together. Number one is the acidity that you are attracted to. It's very bright, by flavor, and it's very fruity, like and a little bit nut, very jammy.
Chai, could you repeat that? Could you repeat that after you sipped? The volume went down.
Number one is the acidity that is attracting you first. This acidity is very, very bright and it's very lively. Next, it's going to be attracted to is the flavor. The flavor is fruity, chocolatey, and also very nutty and a little bit of spice. And then followed by the finish. The finish is very clean and very jammy sensation. And the next one you can see is a very smooth body. So hopefully people at home are enjoying it, having the same, almost the same descriptors as us.
If you're at home and you can comment, tell us what you're experiencing as you drink it, and I'll see it on the feed here.
Yeah.
I definitely get that bright acidity. It's very, very citrusy coming into the tongue.
And you can see we're tasting this coffee black, and it yet express so much character to you.
A lot of cups of coffee.
Are they commenting anything yet?
They're just showing cups of coffee.
Yum. I like it very much.
Yes, yes. The finish is just amazing.
And I love the smell. And I love the smell in the bag when you open the bag. And you just sniff that. Ooh, that's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
They were asking about the flavor.
Yeah.
And the bags.
So, hopefully you can pick up on the flavor, on the smelling, the coffee, you can pick up the chocolate, the spice, and the fruity and the fruit. Matt did show them the flavor wheel, right?
Yes, I have it right here.
Okay, good.
So now you guys are tasting the medium.
Yeah. Any questions so far?
So, yes, we got a lot of questions actually. I'll just ask a few for now.
Okay.
So Kim was asking, how does pre-ground coffee vary from whole beans ground at home?
For this special project that we have done for you, we have to send to you in ground. But if you are a consumer and you know already what brewing method you're going to use, you should be buying whole bean and grind before you brew. So that way you're getting the entire experience that is very, very unique to grinding it right before you brew. That gives you that when you're grinding, you're also enjoying fabulous flavor that is coming out. And you're brewing it, you're also enjoying it again. So you're enjoying it 3 times: grinding, brewing, and tasting. Whereas if someone grinds it for you, you already missed out part 1. So
Yes.
if you can buy,
As she says, this has been pre-ground, but I normally grind my own at home just before I make it. And it really does make a difference. Everyone says I make such good coffee. Well, it's because I grind it right there.
yeah. So you're enjoying all the part 1, part 2, and part 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't roast my own though. I'll let you do that.
That's our job. Our job is to
That's your
roast
job,
it
yeah.
perfectly for you, to let you enjoy all the part 1, part 2, and part 3.
And Matt, can we
Very
go
well
to
done.
the next slide, the specific coffee wheel? What we're seeing here was developed for University of California, Davis for wine. This coffee flavor was, so as a Q grader, my understanding is you had to be able to blind, smell, and taste all those different flavors on the wheel.
Oh yes, yes. We were tested 3 days on that one there.
That's amazing.
And it's our first part as for me is to memorize it. And then you go into the exam room, and all the bottles that they give you are all covered up. You wouldn't know. You have to remember. Yes. I see. And it's really wonderful because we eat and we just the action is so fast. So after getting this Q grader, you just open up the sensory in the mouth and your nose. So you pay attention now to all the food in front of you.
Now remember to save some coffee, save some medium roast, because we're going to go on to private reserve now.
Okay, are we ready to move on?
I'm just looking at the clock here.
Okay, are we okay to move on? Okay, so now
get your private reserve ready, and we're going to do a second brew.
So now I'm going to go and clean up my sorry.
No problem. Take your time.
There were a few questions. I'm not sure whenever you guys were going to answer those.
So, yeah, while you guys are working on it, let me ask you questions. Do you use filtered water or tap water when you make coffee?
Oh, that's the most important one.
Most important question.
Most important one. Water is a very important, crucial part of this component here because what you really want is good filtered water. Okay, good filtered water, not your tap water from your county, okay, because that got a lot of fluoride or a chloride. So you want good filtered water.
And you can use bottled water, or if you have a good filtration system at home, you can use that. They do sell supplements, and you can add to distilled water that has the perfect mineral content. There's a lot of different ways, but good water, good coffee.
Yeah.
Bad water, I don't care what kind of coffee you're using, it's going to be bad coffee.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're going to go into our full city. Okay. All right. Smell the coffee before you brew.
It's a private reserve.
Your private reserve. It is tremendously sweet, fruity as well, and has a bit of slight pipe tobacco for me, and of course very chocolatey. So now I'm going to put. I already pre-wet my filter, and now I'm going to lower my 20 grams. And then now I'm going to start my brew, okay? And brew. Okay, so now I'm going to use this one. Again, see that beautiful creamer right there? And I'm only into 20 seconds of this brew.
Smells good already.
Yeah, yummy.
Now this one smells a little bit sweeter than the medium.
Correct, because of the sugar browning. Yeah, by increasing slightly 10 degrees more, you are into that sugar browning area that is perfected by the roasting room.
I see. Now, the coffee you're making now is considered our most popular coffee. And when I say considered, it means by actual sales. This Private Reserve is our most popular coffee. Why do you think it's so popular?
For Full City?
For Private Reserve.
Oh, because when people come, there's a connection to them visiting the farm, and at the same time, really very proud to embrace the history of this farm. So coming to the farm, learning about the story, and enjoying the coffee right from this farm, that makes it very spectacular.
So this is an estate coffee, and it means that the Private Reserve beans come just from a particular section of our farm on our estate, whereas the medium we drank before is from the Kona coffee belt. Right?
Correct. Yes.
It's a mix, right?
Yeah.
So I know you guys have some trees that's more than 100 years old in your farm.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Are the Private Reserve beans from those trees?
No, so those the grandma's trees we usually use the seed for seed stock, but on the south side of the farm there's 12 acres that have 100-year-old trees. That makes another estate coffee we have called Onouli, Onouli, and we have a very short supply of that. I'm gonna grab a bag so you can see it. Stay there. Oh man, this is what the Onoli bag looks like. If you want to see it on the website, that's what the 100-year-old coffee looks like, and it's so good. I can smell this all day long.
And we need to be proudly announcing that was a state champion.
Yeah, this was state champion at one point. What year was that?
2009. Okay, I'm now into about 3.5 minutes into my brew. So I already reached the mark. So now I've got my water all done. So then this goes now into my
another cup.
Yes, another cup right there for you.
Okay.
Are we going too fast for the people at home, or we're okay in our?
Everybody at home is okay. You're following along, I hope.
Yes.
For me, the most revealing thing is actually comparing them side by side.
Yeah.
That really opened up a whole different world to me. Because you can drink it and you can say, yeah, that's good, I like it, and then the next day you can forget what it was. But when you're just side by side drinking, you notice all the subtle differences between them. So this is Private Reserve. First off, it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice color.
Yeah.
Way more chocolatey on this one, and a slight toast for me. Toast and chocolatey.
And the citrus is a little bit muted from, from the medium.
Yes. While we do that, let me ask you guys more questions from our audience.
Sure.
What coffee and how would you recommend brewing for iced coffee?
Oh, you mean iced coffee or cold brew?
Iced coffee. And there's another question for cold brew as well.
Okay, iced coffee is fantastic for the summer. So you just follow me on this one here, okay? The Japanese people have developed that process.
The flash
brew,
brew,
and it's very fantastic. So you're going to have, so I don't have a regular cup, but if you have a regular cup, you put your ice cube on the bottom. And then you're going to put your coffee, the way we brew it, right above it. And that's your iced coffee. But most important is using soft water to make your ice cube. Okay, then that way your ice and the coffee that you brew over your iced coffee will be fantastic.
I write a blog for our farm every twice a month. And if you go to greenwellfarms.com and go to the blog section, there's a whole article on it's called A Summer of Iced Coffee. And it will explain all the different brew methods for iced coffee, for cold brew, for the flash method she talked about, and specific instructions. So if you're interested in iced coffee, hunt for that on the Greenwell Farms blog.
Yeah.
What is the lifespan of a coffee tree?
Good question.
So it depends on the farm. Remember, we have those 120-year-old trees here. The reason we can say that is because we have records of the day that they were planted. But there may be farms in Kona that have 100-year-old trees, but they don't really know when they went into the ground. But the older they get like that, the less coffee they produce. So on a farm like this, on our main farm area, we're running our trees about 30 plus years, and then they're going to be replaced with younger trees. But that's a luxury. If if you have a small farm here, you're going to either run your trees to 60 or 70 years, or you're going to run them forever, depending on your circumstances. So commercially, that 30 plus years is about average. But yeah, we're going to get started with the next one. Now, I don't want to rush, but we are kind of following along this time schedule here. So we're going to get started with the dark brew. So go ahead and reset all your stuff. Keep both that medium and that private reserve in your cup. And you're going to make cup number 3 now, which is our dark roast. So you can notice the difference.
Yes. So another question, like the shape of the wine glasses, does the shape of coffee mug or cup affect taste, aroma, and enjoyment?
Interesting. Not that I know of. How about
Not
you?
have thought, yeah. It's all the emotion for that day, right? In the morning, like, yes, I'm going to drink my Kona coffee. I want to choose my favorite mug.
Right. I mean, that's what I would say is there's certain mugs that you hold on to and they just fit your hand and you like the way it feels on your lip. And I think that enhances the experience.
That's so
but
true.
I don't think it changes the actual coffee in the cup.
Yeah.
Right. There's another question. How does cold brew affect the flavor versus hot brew?
Oh, cold brew is fantastic. Completely erases away all the acidity. Cold brew for me, my ratio is 1 part of coffee, 5 parts of 4.5 parts of water. Combine them together, and when you are grinding it, it has to be coarse grind, and it goes into a clean jar in your after you combine them, it goes into your refrigerator to let it cold brew, and in the refrigerator for 12, 16 hours in the refrigerator. And tomorrow you filter, and you have a delicious concentrate beverage. And then you just dilute it with ice or half and half of water. And then you got the fabulous cold brew already.
And I've drank her cold brew and it's delicious.
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely
and we
delicious.
did it with onole. What a treat, right?
It's delicious.
Yes.
Amazing.
Okay, we're going to continue now to our dark. Okay, you can see the coffee right here. If you smell it right before you brew it, it's going to be extremely nice, sweet, dark chocolate and toasty. Okay, it's very yummy. Okay, and then now we're ready for our brew, and I'm going to now set my timer, and then we can go with this water.
I'm getting a lot of toast off that smell already.
Toast,
rich
chocolate. And when I say chocolate, this is almost like a dark chocolate for me. Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you're used to a little bit stronger cup of coffee, this dark roast is really satisfying. There's several staff on farm that I'm a dark roast drinker and they love this. I go back and forth. I'll love the medium sometimes and I'll move to dark for a week and I'll go back and forth, but certainly a beautiful cup of coffee that comes from this dark roast.
This one, if I'm buying for someone, this is what I buy for my family back home in Singapore, and they love this coffee all the time.
And do they drink it black or they add some cream to it?
Just a little bit of sugar.
A little bit of sugar.
That's a preference in tasting.
I see.
But after I been educating them more, they are going straight to black.
I see.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. Okay. I'm into just 1.5 minutes of my brew, okay?
Yeah. Someone was asking if I add some milk or cream into the coffee, does it affect the taste?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, when you add milk, you just bring the body just slightly heavier. For the sugar, you just going to increase the sweetness, but always taste the coffee before adding anything. Then you really know
The baseline.
the baseline.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, I always, before I ever worked here, I always drank coffee with a little bit of milk in it. And I loved it. You know, Gordon Ramsay says, no fat, no flavor. And so having that little bit of cream in there really, you know, it not only mellows the taste, but you experience differently. But I had to learn to drink black coffee, which I do enjoy now a lot. But still at home, if I want something in the morning and I want something a little bit softer, a little bit creamier, I'll add half and half or a little bit of milk to my coffee, and it's beautiful. So don't feel like you're committing sacrilege or you're doing something wrong. You can drink your coffee any way that makes you happy.
Yeah. I started drinking black coffee after I visited your farm for the first time. Yeah.
Someone was just asking what roast private reserve is.
Oh,
Medium dark.
Yeah.
Private reserve here is a medium dark, or we call it as the full city roast. So you're actually, when you're seeing what we sent to you, it's from light, which is the medium dark, and dark.
We're making the dark now, right?
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
So
Okay, I'm about 3.5 minutes to my brew. So this is now ready for enjoyment.
Someone was asking about shade-grown coffee, and we did talk about it a little bit, but on our higher elevation, it's a little bit cooler, a little more cloud cover. The coffee cherries ripen a little bit more slowly. So that is usually associated with a tiny bit sweeter and tiny bit fruitier cup of coffee. Oh, wow.
Wow, isn't that amazing?
This one smells so good, just like wafting by.
Yeah. So this is the dark, okay?
thank you.
Right.
Wow, straight right away, chocolate and toast.
Yeah.
And you can really have that acidity, but it's way playing in the background.
I love that aftertaste on this.
Exactly.
When I drink it, breathe out.
Yeah.
There's this, I don't know how to describe it. It's very sweet and like you said, chocolatey, just in my breath. And I really love it.
Yeah.
Now feel free to go back freely and sample the different cups and notice, you know, I got private reserve in this hand and dark in this. And
so this is a really good way to really learn about acidity. When you go back to the first one, which is the medium, that acidity really shines first. Is what we're talking about. And now you go back to the dark. It's slightly muted, but it's there.
Yes. I can taste the difference.
Go back to the cup number 1. It's so juicy. It's very juicy, very citrusy. And then the first one, the third one, very, very chocolatey.
really get that chocolate side by side, night and day. Yeah.
So
and then the middle one, bit of slight pipe tobacco for me. Just a character by itself.
Now, is that spiciness you're talking about, or something else?
Something else.
Something else. Pipe tobacco.
I like pipe tobacco. Yeah.
In a good way.
In a very good way.
Yeah. It has a very elegant finish, the middle one.
Yes.
So let me ask you guys this. Is medium roast really the truest taste of coffee?
Yeah.
Yeah. If we're honest, okay, if we're 100% honest, and again, it's all about preference, what you enjoy at home. But when they professionally cup coffee, they're going to use that lighter to medium roast. Correct. And the reason is, as we said earlier, it reveals most of the origin character of the coffee. And so if you become a coffee connoisseur and you're going to get coffee from Ethiopia and Costa Rica and all over the world, if you drink it at that light roast level, you're going to experience what makes it unique to that growing region. If you're going to cook it to the darker or French roast, you're going to experience a pretty uniform cook taste that comes at that level. You'll get a slight variance, but it won't be as noticeable as in the flavor.
Yeah. Our criteria when we're cupping coffee has always had to be medium. And the protocol is very, very tight. Extron 58 for whole bean, 63 for grounds, and the water, good quality water, filtered of course. And the room has to be very quiet, air temperature, cool. So when we're cupping coffee, it's a serious exercise and really allowing us to not be biased. We like to cup the coffee blind. So we have coffee grounds, we have coffee, we weigh out 11 grams. So this is now we will show you when we're doing quality control, we will weigh out 11 grams of our coffee. Of course, on the scale, 11 grams. And then our water will be, of course, 195 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we will pour the water and then we'll let it sit for 4 minutes before we break it. So just imagine with me, okay? This is just a showing you what we do in the cupping room. So we'll pour water like cowboy. This is like cowboy style, cowboy style, okay? Right. And then we will wait for 4 minutes, and then we will in the 4 minutes we'll let the coffee do the work, and then we will break at 4 minutes, and then we will smell, evaluate, and then we'll cup from there.
Yeah, it's very serious. They're slurping from spoons and they're writing notes on pads, and but they are really trying to use all their senses to know what that coffee is trying to tell them.
So this has to go all the way up
to the top.
Yeah, to the top. And then after 4 minutes already, you break, you clean the coffee, and then you take some coffee, and then you slurp. When we slurp, we're bringing more air to flood the taste buds and really let the more notes to come out. So sometimes we pick up almonds, we pick up hazelnut, and we pick up floral, or we pick up, oh no, this coffee is no good, or whatever, any defect. So when we are cupping, is we're really looking for the good or the bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, a couple questions that just came in. One asked, how's flavored coffee made?
Oh.
And you want to answer that?
Yeah. For Greenwell Farms, we offer you at this time 3 flavored one, and that will be Magnut, chocolate Magnut. And because now we're into the fall or winter season, we offer you autumn harvest. It's actually coffee that is already roasted, cool, and then we put syrup, and it goes to a tumbler and agitate for another 30 minutes, and then we package it for you. So flavoring of the coffee is always done after roasting.
Yeah, there's a syrup that they make with different flavored oils, and that coats the outside of the bean. The other question is, for grinded coffee, like the samples, how many days could it be kept? Is it better to enjoy it as soon as possible?
Yes, I enjoy like fine wine. Don't keep it too long.
Right.
Yes, so
these craft bags are designed to really be used in a week.
Yeah.
So try to enjoy it as soon as possible. But if you get whole bean or ground coffee and you store it dry, dark, cool, so you don't want moisture, you don't want heat on it, it should last you a little bit. But there's people in the world that can drink that coffee for 6 months, and people for 3 months, and some people need to drink it the first couple of weeks. So a lot of it will depend on your relationship to the coffee.
Does putting, like, if we buy whole beans, does it last longer if we put it, like, the whole bag when it's sealed, in the freezer?
No, I'm not a freezer.
Okay.
Yeah, we've gotten away from the freezer, just meaning that some people, they buy it in bulk and they just keep it there and then they take it out. But we've seen research that people would put the coffee in the freezer and then take it out to make it and then put it back and take it out. And that condensation, when they're taking it out, refreezes back in the freezer, and then over time it breaks down the cell wall. So they're saying, okay, don't buy more coffee than you can consume in a month, so you're always getting a fresh supply, and just keep it dark, dry, and cool. And you can buy a container, you can keep it in the cupboard. That should give you the freshest coffee.
Sounds good. And I got another question. What is your recommended grinding method? I guess it's referring to like a burr grinder and versus other type.
So you want to talk about that?
Burr is the best. Blade one is kind of difficult to control. You have to always toss it, like one that you buy from CVS, and it's a blade. So you always have to rotate those fine grinds, because the whole beans will be on the top and the grind will be on the bottom. You always have to rotate, okay? But the burr grinder gives you the best even size when it's at the finished product.
And the theory is, if you have all equal size coffee granules, then they all extract the same way.
Yes.
So, but they can be expensive, and again, in the end, it's going to be up to you. If you want to take coffee seriously and you want to control every variable, you're going to have to invest in a really good burr grinder. If you don't care, you just want to make it small and get a cup and get out the door in the morning, you can get a $10 Walmart grinder and you'll probably be happy. So it's going to depend a lot on the user. Is
there a difference between the steel burr and the ceramic burr? Sorry, I started become a enthusiast recently.
Right. The difference between those two is that the metal one can heat up, and it can slightly singe that coffee, where they say the ceramic one doesn't. So as it's slicing, it's cutting in that coffee, and you're not getting any heat exchange. So okay, very, very small difference, but you're obviously, Matt, into it. And so before you invest, though, if you can go to a nice cafe and actually get a side-by-side sample and see if you notice a difference and see if it's worth your money, I think it's a good way to approach it, rather than spending $200 or $1,000 and not being able to tell the difference.
Yeah. Melissa's asking, are hand grinders better than the electric ones?
Some hand grinder are good. I basically use the electric one, so I can control it better. The grind, sometimes as I get old, I have arthritis, so it's going to be a bit difficult for me. So electric serves well for me.
Right. I also use an electric one. My wife is very tactile. She's a baker. She likes to touch and do things. So she really likes those old style grinders. But again, it's going to be personal preference. And if you notice a difference, awesome. Some people, I don't know if they'll notice much difference.
Yeah. Sounds great. So let me ask you one last question, and we will go. You guys are not in a hurry, right? We can come back because we have some more questions.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Right. Someone was asking, can we buy green beans from you guys directly on your website and the roast at home?
I tried to answer that on the online. We don't sell direct to consumer green beans anymore. You'd have to go through the contract process with Pat Stewart, our coffee market.
Right. Okay. So we will move on to the lucky draw part, and we will come back in probably about 5 minutes. Jenny, you ready?
Yes, great. So happy times always pass quickly, and our lucky draw is coming to an end. Tasting coffee reminds me for the questions I often ask myself. So today I want to ask you, whenever you encounter a challenge, do you want to be the carrots, eggs, or coffee beans? When you encounter hot water, carrots become soft and the eggs become hard. Only coffee beans are different. They change the water and transform it to the tasty coffee. Also, life is often like the pot of the boiling water with a great pressure. If you give in easily, you will become the weak and waste your time or life. Coffee beans, like our teachers, Dr. Elizabeth Xu and Dr. William Li, change their environments along with themselves. Also, they make life better for everyone. Therefore, no matter how many problems we face with work or family or friends or finance, we should strive to positively influence our communities to become the strongest and the most responsible coffee bean, like our teacher, Ms. Pat Zimmerman. You can change the environment too. So remember, however you see the world, that's what it will be like. Changing the world around you also changes what you can be. So that's why I'm wishing you much luck and joy in this Thanksgiving season. Life is full of the bitterness and sweetness, but happiness can only be achieved after overcoming challenges. I hope that each of us will do our best to realize our own dreams of the success and happiness, remembering like coffee beans to bring others up with us when we do. Thank you again for your participation and support. This concludes today's Lucky Draw. Wow.
Thank you, Jenny.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jenny. I now understand why the billionaires give their family offices to you to manage, because you are really a person full of wisdom. And I totally buy in what you said, that life is like a coffee bean, that you can work with the hot water, which is challenges, and grind yourself and then go through the hot water, and then you become something really, really flavorful, enlightening for the people. And I definitely wanted to be that coffee bean now. Thank you.
We learned it from you.
Thank you.
Thank you. How's the harvest this year?
It's beautiful. It's the beans they're getting big. The bug damage is low. They're just beautiful.
Can you talk a little bit more growing process? What kind of fertilizer you use and how the seeding, growing, and transplanted?
I would love to, except that's a little bit longer topic that I think we have time for.
Is it in the blog already?
Yes. So Matt, I'd like to ask you that what kind of packages and sales ongoing from your company and your farm, like for now and then for the future, when the pandemic is over, what do you offer for us?
Well, you know, if you visit Hawaii, of course, we offer free tours of the farm, and we like to show people all the processes and everything. And I know Matt was on one, and that's how he found out about us. But we have all the different roasts that we make on our shelves every day. You can get it online. You can get it at the shop here. And it goes from a very light roast to that French roast. We have a 4 or 5 estate coffees that cycle through the year. And actually right now until December 7th, we do free shipping on orders over $100. So it's a great time if you don't want to pay shipping costs to get your Christmas presents, because it's a really, we only do it 3 weeks a year, and this is the time. So from now until December 7th.
How about the macadamia nuts? And the last time I went to your website, I saw the nuts and the other things.
Right, so we sell chocolate, macadamia nut, roasted coffee beans and chocolate, all sorts of accessories. Really, really good stuff.
One more question.
The sale isn't only on the free shipping isn't only on coffee. It's on everything you buy on site. Yeah. So,
yeah. So one more thing is, let's see that when the pandemic is over, when we go over to your farm, do you offer like a large conference room or places if we want to do like the executive retreat?
Well, we do everything outside, but if you can arrange private tours as well, where we do a more in-depth view of the farm, and we actually do private tastings like we did today, just up close and personal.
Great.
Great, thank you. Know that you're.
So I want to extend my thanks to A2C. Matt and Elizabeth, thank you so much for imagining this event and organizing and hosting. Our cat just arrived here. That's Snow. Come on, baby. Everybody say hi to the kitty cat.
Hey.
And also to Be the Change Foundation. They introduced me to the work they did last week, and it's just beautiful, amazing work. So thank you so much. And on behalf of Greenwell Farms, Chai, Olivia, and myself, we got to get the real work now. But we thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to host you on the farm itself in the future.
Yeah.
Yes.
And happy
Definitely.
We'll see you soon. Okay.
Yes,
See you in person.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you everyone for attending.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you, Pat or Jenny. I love to